Behind those cozy nights at home, thousands of employees at BP go to work every day. People producing more U.S. natural gas. People building grid-scale solar capacity. People turning landfill waste gas into pipeline-quality renewable natural gas. And people delivering all of that power where it's needed. They're part of the more than 300,000 jobs BP supports across the country. Learn more at bp.com/investing in America.
Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. What's going on, Callow? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
All right. You and I and Archer are going to go see Game 2, Orioles Royals today up at Camden Yards. So you're pulling the full hooky from work day to go see the Orioles today. How about that? We have reversed roles here. You're playing. I'm working. You're
right.
Not playing hooky today.
I feel like I've earned it though. You know,
Yeah.
I do handle things day to day quite a bit on this station.
Right.
But you know, just for a cheap plug, Orioles at 4:30, pregame at 4:00. Andy, who you just heard with Orioles preview, that will play at 3:30, and then you with Commanders Daily at 3:00. So we had to move some things around to get some things in. I conveniently reap all of those benefits, though. So
there you go. I'll talk more about the Orioles. They did lose yesterday, 1-0. So their vaunted offense didn't show up for game 1 of the playoffs. Vibes are just not pretty up there, and they haven't been really for a while. Which listen, I don't believe you turn that stuff around. Like, I just think like when it's just in the air like that, it's kind of hard to avoid it. I am hoping, because this is Archer's first ever playoff game, that we at least get it to a game 3 so he gets to witness a win at home. And then, you know, this would be, if they were to lose, this would be 2 years in a row that they got swept at home in the playoffs with this team that looks like the building blocks of a dynasty. So I'm just hoping we get to game 3 so I keep Archer away from the idea of, I don't know, man, I don't trust these dudes.
there's a part of me though that has to, as somebody that is a cursed DC sports fan, I know we went through the winning. There's a part of me that, you know, that toughens him up a little bit if he sees an elimination today. I'm just saying that it's a part of life. It's a part of life, man. You can't protect him from all the losing.
That's right. That's right. Like I'll have to have the tales of driving home where I'm like, let me tell you about my childhood in the Capitals.
Yes. No, I mean, so, okay.
Explain that to you. Yeah.
You took it out of my mouth. I was going to say Baltimore Capitals because, I mean,
yeah,
they're about to be, I saw a stat from Matt Wyrick, who used to cover the Caps last year. And now he covers the Orioles. He had a stat this morning that if the Orioles lose today, they would be the second team to have a 10-game losing streak in the postseason in the 2000s. 10-game losing streak.
Oh, I think I know the other one. It's the Twins, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Twins.
John Walton's Twins would be the other team.
Because I've seen it. Like every time they make the playoffs, they're like, they've lost 17 in a row. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how'd they not win one of the games? It's a series. Like, how did that happen? Yeah.
Correct. The Twins got up to 18. And so the Orioles are at 10. Or it could be up to 10. Sorry, I think they're at 9 now. But yeah. So, right. You know, the other thing too with yesterday, I mean, I know you're going to talk more. I watched the entire game yesterday. It reminded me of a Caps game. The whole crowd was waiting for like anything for them to go crazy for. They needed one run. They couldn't score the one run. Corbin Burns looks dejected because he's like, I just gave up one run.
One run.
We're going to lose. By the way, first pitcher since 2019 to go into the 9th inning of a postseason game. Do you know who the other one was? I mean, 2019.
Oh, Strasburg?
Yes.
Right.
First pitcher to go into the 9th inning in the postseason since Strasburg. I mean, they
kept them out there. They're like, we're going to, and then they lost. It's just like, I was yelling about this. I was flagging this a few weeks ago, you know, and not that like, I don't think you should be realists about everything. I think you should, you know, and I'm going to talk about the Commanders in a minute. And I know I'm not ready to get back on earth yet with it, but I mean, like, but I do think there's a valid reason to like to do that. But when it goes the other way and the team has a really good record and they're winning, but you're just constantly pounding them on why everything is wrong. Like if that doesn't like seep into their locker room, it does. Like eventually, if they think the people who are supposed to be most supportive of them, the community they play in, just aren't, like there is going to be an after effect of that. It's just human nature. And I think you're seeing it. So they're going to be gripping it just like the fans are. Like it's bad. Like it's really bad vibes, bad juju. And I just hope today someone hits a home run in the first or second inning. They get out to a lead, and then maybe they could just everybody could just relax for a minute and just go out there and play a game and let the chips fall where they may. But like this whole, if it's nothing in the sixth again, I already know what this is going to be. Everybody's just going to be sitting there waiting for something terrible to happen, including the players, right? Include not just us. They can feel it too, including the players. This goes back to the old Caps days. We used to watch these playoff games specifically against the Penguins. And you were just like, this isn't going to go well. Like, I just know it. I don't know how. I don't know when. I don't know when it's going to go wrong, but it is. And you could just feel it. It was palpable. And it's what sucks about this is all those guys on that team, they're all really young. Like they could potentially be doing this for a long time, but you're telling them they're not good enough now. And yeah, y'all are making a mistake is just the way I would put this. Like you need to chill out. This isn't your last chance. The window isn't closing. It's too late to get behind these guys this year because you've decided to squish them, but like, I think from here moving forward, there needs to be an intervention with Baltimore in general to tell them you have this really good young team. Stop nitpicking every little thing that they do because it just seeps back to them. And look at the result. They're losing 1-0 to the Royals. Like, come on.
You say Caps Penguins. I actually say Caps Rangers.
Sure.
Because those were the teams that the Caps, you knew they were better, but they had a defense and they had Lundqvist back there. And you're like, man, if this is 0-0 after 2, we're screwed, And like, that's how I feel with the Royals. The Royals are streaking towards the end of the season. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, if we just keep it close, we'll be fine. It feels like that type of tension.
The Penguins ones are interesting because if you really think about them through the years, like when they were getting, they were losing those really heartbreaking series when I was a kid. Well, that was Lemieux and Yager playing for them.
Right.
And then when they were losing the heartbreaking series, in the most recent incarnation of the rivalry, that was Crosby and Malkin that they were losing to. So like in this case, like I look at the Orioles have Crosby and Malkin. The Royals have one of them, but they're too young and too inexperienced. They shouldn't win this series. They really shouldn't. And they clearly are going to, and it sucks, because like that's the worst part of it. Because I'm looking at the Orioles and I go, done right, they've got a few Hall of Famers on their team, and you're looking at them in their early 20s, and they're going to be here for a while because the control is so crazy in Major League Baseball, and you should just kind of enjoy it. And it doesn't seem like anybody up there is willing to enjoy it, and it's seeped down. With the Capitals, I agree with you. Those Rangers series were infuriating because it looked like the Capitals were a better team, and they were similarly. You'd be like, I know we're going to lose, and I don't know why. The Penguins ones with some, age and perspective on it, if you really think about it, they were evenly matched. And those teams also had all-time great players. So, it was unfortunate they lost as often as they did to the all-time great players, but it doesn't change the fact that those were all-time great players. And ultimately, when the Capitals would lose to them, the Penguins would go on and win the cup. So it would validate the loss to them. The Royals, I don't think if they win this series are going to make a run to the World Series. It doesn't look like a team that will do that. And that's what I think is infuriating about this. At least last year, Texas beat them. And the Orioles fans are all like, this is horrible. Well, Texas won the World Series, so it kind of validated the loss. Like, they got hot at the right time. They had a really good pitching staff, I think better than people knew. And the lineup was hot, and so they hit it at the right time. I don't look at this at all and think that Kansas City, if they were to win this, are winning the next round against anybody. Like, I don't like that's the thing that I think is infuriating about this.
No, I would agree with you. I think maybe Baltimore going through the same thing we went through, where because the Ravens can't get through, like they keep losing these big playoff games, and then you had the Orioles happen last year. That is the fan base up there kind of going through what we went through, where like it took the Caps winning to lift it up from everybody, and then like you and me went to that wild card game. By the way, 5 years yesterday was the wild card game at Nats Park.
Oh, yeah.
But like, remember, we went to that game. We're like, man, the vibes here are pretty good for a game that they're losing. We're like, the vibes were really good. And it was because the Caps had won the cup. Everybody was like, hey, we win now. Like, whatever. Like, if it happens, it happens. Is Baltimore maybe going through a little bit of that where it's like, we can't get past the big one. So because the football team can't do it, we're going to bring that intensity to the baseball team. I feel like there's a little bit of that there.
I think with the Ravens, they really blew an opportunity last year for sure. Like, they had home field advantage. They played one of their worst games of the year at the worst time possible against an all-time great player, and you're just going to lose. And I think the most surprising part of that one, which should have been the wake-up call for them, was for the first, like, rarely are they the less physical team in a game. And they were in the AFC Championship game. Like, the Chiefs deserved to win on every level. And then all the fears of Lamar can't make the big pass when you need him to make the big pass, that came out. So that was one of those, like, okay, but I don't get the sense. I'd have to talk to Ravens fans about it. I don't get the sense it's the same thing like this. Like, I hear everybody this started months ago where they're just, everything's wrong. Nothing's right. Elias knows how to find prospects, but he treats them like they're gems in his pocket that he can't trade for anything. And he's not making the team good enough. And it's a constant. And then they just start nitpicking the play. Like, oh, they can't do this. Oh, this is horrible. This is this hole on this side of the infield or whatever. It's just like on and on and on and on. With the Ravens, I don't get the sense that they feel that way. I think they feel like, I don't know how we haven't won one yet, but we're good enough to do it. But I think that they're cognizant enough to know that just because they're really good doesn't mean that they don't have to deal with Mahomes, Burrow, or Allen. They seem to understand that like that exists. This one, it's like they're not giving any excuses to it. And so it's different. And granted, I watch football way more closer than I watch baseball. And if the Baltimore fans were going after the Ravens the way they're going after the Orioles, I would think that they're just out to lunch with like what they're looking at, because you have a really, really, really good team. And the unfortunate reality is only one wins every year. And you've just been, I would describe it as unfortunate in this era of not being on the other side of that. Like, Burrow also hasn't won one yet. Allen also hasn't won one yet. I'd say the same things to the Bills fans, like, stay in it, because like, as long as you stay in it, you're going to have a shot with these guys. You've run into an all-timer. With the Orioles, this is the weirdest part. They're so young that I keep looking at them and I'm going, how are you so off on these guys so quickly? Like, I don't understand it. Like, they're so young. They should have a lot of opportunities together, unless you just want to make it so uncomfortable for them that they can't ever think that they're going to win. That's what I don't get about the mentality about it, really.
I mean, I think maybe there's a little bit of kind of Philly, folded in here. I think Orioles fans are smart baseball fans. I think maybe they also see, though, what wins you World Series. It's really good pitching usually, and they just don't have that outside of Burns.
They did yesterday. I mean, they did acquire an ace, and he was every bit as good as you could. He's had a great season, and he was every bit as good as you need him to be in game one. But I don't know much, but I do know that if you don't score, you don't win. So that's not his fault.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying, though. I guess maybe they were even assuming that we need more than just one pitcher, and maybe that's what they've landed on. And it didn't work out yesterday, obviously. And now you're going, great. I think they start Elfin today, and it's like, all right, good luck with that. Like, that's who you're going to have to pin your hopes on here. And I think to your point though of like how they were kind of not bashing the team but being critical, is they saw
hypercritical.
They saw a little bit of it early though. Like, Craig Kimbrell, they knew 2.5 months in that he wasn't in it. He didn't get DFA'd till last month. Like,
I agree on that one. They hung on way too long on that one. They could have done something, but like, so yes, like, they're not wrong in some of the criticism, and I agree with that. Like, it was clearly time to move away from him, and they didn't do it for a long time. It doesn't change the fact that they're still in the playoffs with like an astronomically good record. Like, you know what I mean? Like, every team has some issues somewhere on it, and if you just turn every like molehill into a mountain, this is what you get. Tense people who sit around assuming you're going to lose. And this is what I don't get about this team. Like, how are you not semi-confident with these young players that you have, that even if it's not this year that it's going to happen, they're acting like that this team doesn't know what they're doing. And that's the part that I think that, like, I don't know, just as someone who likes to be an optimist and looks at this team and sees all these great players on it, I go, yeah, I want them to win right now too. And yeah, I think the door's a little bit open. And yeah, they probably could do a little bit more in and around. And the Kimbrel decision is one that I agree, like, needed to be handled a lot earlier. There was a lot of Rivera in that one. It's like, guy, we know he needs to stop being the closer. Why can't you see it? You know, like, and then it's like, it feels like it's too late, but it's not. They're in the playoffs now. He's not the guy they're going to be turning to. It's just, you could just feel it. The energy's been sucked out of the room. They were saying weird things. You know, I don't like calling for people's firings, but I do think that if they go out quickly here, that the logical thing is probably to make a change at manager, whether Hyde deserves that or not, because they're just going to have to get someone else in there who can message differently to everybody to get everybody to get back backing them again.
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of the Orioles organization. My guess, though, is if Hyde is also just being handed a lineup every day, they probably don't value that as much. So maybe that's not as important, or that's an easy change, I guess. You could look at that either way, I guess. That you could just put anyone in there if you think that
they have a PR problem. Like, and that's really, like, unfortunately, like a lot of the manager's duties, especially when your GM is an algorithm, you know, like some of the problems are like in the real world, though, the paying customers, you know, these people are human. You can sit there and put them in a spreadsheet and stick them out there, but they are human. And when they hear other humans bashing them, even though they're winning 2 out of every 3 games, it's going to get to them at some point in time. And that's where you need the human, because the chat bot can't answer the questions from the reporter from the Baltimore Banner. You need like the real human to walk out there and get everybody thinking the right way about it. And, you know, I'm not saying Hyde doesn't do this, but clearly if they go out with a whimper again, and just the way that everybody talked about them all year, they're going to have to do something, right? They're clearly going to have to do something in the offseason to appease everybody that they made a move again to, like, because they're paying Burns. They're not really paying anybody. They're very fortunate with all these young guys on these like controlled contracts at this point. They'll have to make decisions soon on Rushman and Henderson and those guys, but not yet. So they still have these very controllable contracts, which means the pressure is going to be on the new ownership to go get somebody. But there's a PR problem here too, and that's, he may be an unfortunate casualty of all of this, because they need to get somebody out there who can get everybody back on board and excited. And when they have a bad day or two, not freak out constantly on them.
That's the other side of this too, is like Burns, it's pretty much known, like the Buster Olneys, the Tim Kirchens of the world have already said, like, there's no way the Orioles are going to hand them that contract because they're just not in that business right now. They're waiting to pay some of their other guys. Corbin Burns, would love to see him in a Nats uniform. I'll just throw that one out there right now. But, you know, it's also the makeup of this team. You can't trade for a Corbin Burns every year either. So it's how do they get out of this on the other side during the winter meetings and all of that. So, yeah. Vibes are weird, man. You know,
this new owner's come in. The new owner immediately said he'd spend some money. He did. You know, they made the deal. They got Burns. He had to spend money on it. The previous owners weren't spending any money, which was, I think, the biggest issue in and around. They had all these players, but I think they were hamstrung probably by ownership to do anything to make the team better. That doesn't seem to be an excuse anymore. So, you know, to the new owner, I think you're going to have to put a big check out there to get everybody calmed down and settled. And here we are, like, we're doing it now too. This series isn't over yet. It feels like it is.
Right. Yes, correct.
It feels like it is, but it isn't. Like, why can't they win the next 2 days against a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in a long time? Like, with really young players, and not unlike the Orioles, a couple of them that look like they're really, really good. Like, really, really, really good. Yeah, but why can't they win the next 2 days? And we're already talking about, here's all the things they need to do. So we are doing the same thing I'm complaining about, which is, I don't know why we can't just, everybody chill out. We're here. Why can't we try to, you know, back this very good young team? Why can't they score 6 runs today and win? Why not?
We've done this before, though, where one team is streaking into the playoffs and the other one kind of limped in, and we know which ones are on each side on this one. We've just seen this too many times. That's why. I think that's really the reasoning here is the Orioles for the whole second half. It wasn't just a month. Yeah. It was a second half that just wasn't, I don't know. It wasn't confident inducing is what I would call that whole second half. Even I think it was Burns. No, it wasn't Burns. It was Mountcastle yesterday. I heard a clip going into the broadcast where he was like, yeah, well, you know, the second half wasn't what we wanted it to be, but we're here and we're not happy about it. Like not happy about not winning the division. And I was kind of like, ooh, like that's a little prickly for you being in the playoffs right now.
Prickly. That's the problem. And I said this is what filters down. It's like, are the fans reacting to what they're seeing, or are the fans manifesting a terrible destiny? Because that's what it feels like a little bit to me. There were periods of time during the summer where I'm like, God, you guys got to lay off of them a little bit. Like, I know they're not winning every day, but look at their record. Like, why are you going at them so hard? But here we are. They're not the Yankees. They didn't spend $500 million on their roster. Like, if you have something like that, then you have to accept. If you play for something like that, or you're part of something like that, then you deserve all the nitpicking on earth because you supposedly bought a championship team. That's not what's here right now. They have the opportunity because they've drafted all these great young players to be really good. It's weird that it's just weird to me that people aren't as behind it as I thought they would be.
I think
we'll see.
I think you hit a good point though earlier a couple minutes ago too, where they need to probably sign one guy to
they have
to ramp up the feeling, because one of the more underrated things that the Nats did way back when in 2012 was they gave Jason Worth that contract, and you could think whatever you want of the money that they gave him, but it put everyone on notice of this team is serious about winning now. That guy's probably not worth that money, but he's going to go into that clubhouse and he's going to have that contract, and everyone's going to go, okay, we're serious now. The Orioles don't really have that. Burns is still on his controlled contract. He's about to get paid, but he isn't paid. There's no one that's getting paid on that team. So I think that's another factor here too, is how serious are we? Because everyone in this room's, still making their base salaries. So that's another thing too. They also have to spend some money, I think, maybe to kind of ramp up the pressure in a good way. Yeah,
this is going to be on that owner. He needs to realize it too. Like whether you like it or not, you got to throw out a big check this year. You're just going to have to do it. Even after they got Burns in the spring, I think immediate reaction I had was, this is good. The ownership is okaying them doing something that's prominent. They probably need another player, and they should do it at the deadline and show everybody that they're very serious. And when they didn't, again, I think that's where I think some of the criticism could come in. I've been on the Nationals, a little bit, because they're not really spending any money on anybody. So how in the world are they going to get any, you have to show that you're serious. Now that Corbin's off their books, they have no, and Sperluga's going to come at him every day about it. Go spend. He's going to bully them into spending some money, and it's deserved. They should spend some money to show that they're serious. They also don't look like they have the makings of what the Orioles have, which is it's kind of ready-made if you bring in a couple of really good veterans to help them get over the top, or at least get a little closer, or give the feeling that they're going to get a little closer. So we'll see what they do. Real quick on the other series. Things can change fast. This was supposed to be rebuild total down years for the Mets and the Padres, both of them. Neither one of them were supposed to be in the playoffs. The Mets, after what they did a year ago, where they just kind of shed off a bunch of the mistake things that they did, and a couple that they can't get out of because they gave long-term contracts that they can't get out of, they were supposed to be bad this year. Here they are in the playoffs, winning their first game. The Hawk Tua girl is all over. She's which is cool, the mascot of the whole thing. She's not from New York. I don't even know how in the world she got involved with all of this. Well, New York's crass. So, okay. All right. So now
she threw a first pitch out. She threw a first pitch out.
But I mean, why would she be doing it for the Mets? It's weird. Anyway, so she's whatever. I like it. Crass place. Let's go down that road. Fine. Padres, same thing. They shed all the salary because they couldn't afford the team that they had. Soto's playing in New York. They weren't supposed to be that good. Here they are in the playoffs. They won their first game. This sport's weird these days. I mean, the Orioles, who should be the rocket ship, are a dud because everybody's mad at them. And the Padres and the Mets, that were supposed to be total also-rans because they're resetting and getting out of bad decisions that they had made, or ones that just didn't play out well, they're winning. This is weird. It was a weird year.
You said all that, and you didn't even mention the Braves, who were dead in the water halfway through the year and just eked their way into the playoff spot on the last day of the season. Well, actually, technically, them and the Mets, the last, you can't call it game 163
that was the coolest
anymore.
Picture ever, by the way. Yeah. Both of those teams sitting on the field congratulating each other to be in the playoffs. That was amazing.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying that too. This has been a weird playoff year, and this is why everybody's scared of everybody, because you look at everyone's teams and you're like, okay, those guys are all hot. All the contenders out, have flaws. That's why these playoffs are going to be chaos. And same thing. That's why we probably shouldn't be talking about the Orioles losing, because it is chaos.
And and the Tigers, they traded away one of their best players in the middle of the season, and then went like 31-11 the rest of the way. So this has been a really weird year. We'll see where it goes. And then, in the end, though, all of this ends up with the Dodgers and the Yankees playing each other. Probably.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you all have your fun now. They're just like sitting, waiting to see who they're going to play and defeat. Like, is what's happening. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show you ESPN 630 Sports Capital.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
All right, welcome back. All right, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Do you want Davante Adams or not? What do you want? He's now apparently available for trade. Do you want him or not? This was they got on Mina Kimes for saying like weeks ago, she's like, he's going to be traded, and then she earmarked him here.
Yeah.
So she's looking like the Svengali of the whole thing to say that when she said it. Not that it'd be like, it's not a reach to go, they didn't get the quarterback they were looking for either in free agency or the draft. Their quarterback situation is bad. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I know, like, that's not that much of a reach. She also earmarked him here, though, which I think was, if you've paid attention to what Washington has done so far, they didn't acquire Brandon Ayuk, who desperately wanted to come here because of the money, because I don't think they're really ready and willing to pay for something like that. But a lot's changed in a month. And, I don't know in the building if they've reset expectations or not based on how they've performed over the first month. Because when they say like, oh, we want to win now and later, I think we're all going wink, 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 like, let's see what year one is. Maybe Jay, gets really, starts and looks really good and looks the part. Maybe they're very competitive and maybe we sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. But the first month has gone so astronomically well that I do wonder in the building, have they reset their expectations where they would think about something like this? And I'll talk about him specifically in a moment, but let me start there. Do you think they should rethink their expectations for whether it's Adams or other people that they could acquire? Do you think that they should reset their expectations of what they could do this year? Because that's what this would be about.
So I think it's two-part question there. On Adams, my initial thought was yes, but what are they asking for? And then it came out last night that it's a second-round pick, and that's too high for me. Like, yeah. I would rather draft someone next year in the second round and get somebody that's under their control and better priced. The other thing here is they don't really need a receiver. It would be nice, but as an actual need, like glaring need, do they need that right now? They just scored 42 points without having anyone behind Terry. Zacchaeus got a bunch of targets. Diami Brown got 2 clutch targets at the end. Like, I'm going to make the argument here of, if you're going to make a trade, hit up a losing team about a cornerback, about an edge rusher. Like, I go in that direction because you're actually going to need one of those and extend them. And I think you can get by with this offense right now. I'm not saying like they're perfect on offense, but I'm saying Jaden's kind of mitigated the need to invest more in the offense. I'd like to see them go get somebody's like number 2 corner that could start here, or somebody's defensive end that would be an upgrade here. Like, that's where I would go. I wouldn't go with a second-round pick for Davante Adams, though. He's also older. You probably have to extend him, or it's a rental, and I'm not interested in a rental at this point.
So I'll get to Adams in a second. There's one thing you brought up, which is we don't need another receiver right now, which is interesting because a month ago, I don't think we would have said that, right? Like,
yeah.
Everyone was screaming and yelling for Brandon Ayuk because the assumption was they're not good enough at that position group to be effective. they were kind of holding firm, saying, okay, you don't have to say we have a quote unquote number 2 receiver, but we like the guys that we have. And then secondarily on the offense, when they go, we actually really like Brandon Coleman. Like, we really think he's going to be an answer here. Or we think Lucas can play a little bit more than you guys think he can. You know, coaches do this all the time, or organizations do this all the time, where they profess a belief in something, and then the fans have to see it to believe it. And then one is typically right or wrong. Ron ended up being wrong more than, like, we would tell him, we don't think that this is the way it should go, or you obviously need to make this change. And then it oftentimes became true, which is always not a very good sign of the way things are going. If the fans and we know, you know, more than it seemingly they know, and they're in the building, then that's a problem. This is an underrated, incredible sign of what's going on right now. They're not wrong about these things yet. In fact, I think, like, to your point of saying we don't need another receiver right now, albeit I would argue this is a massive upgrade from anybody else that they would have.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need it, is proof of you're saying they're right, that they were right about this. And I still think they do need another top target personally. Like, I think they do. I don't necessarily know whether they need him at the price point and his age, because I've talked about this a lot too. Like, I want things to time up a little bit. What worried me about McLaurin was his age. He's older than Daniels by a significant amount. His contract's going to come in question very, very soon. I love him. I think he's going to be great. He clearly, like, is totally now immersed into fitting into what they're doing right now. But long term, if we're talking about this 2, 5, 7-year run with this quarterback, which is the hope, obviously, is McLaurin timed up to be part of something like that if he doesn't transition to a number 2 receiver, right? I don't know. Adams is older than him. And at 31, the only reason why the Commanders would do this is because they actually think they can win literally right now. Literally. And that's where it goes back to, are they resetting their internal expectations to a point where they go, you know what, guys? I know it's weird and it's never really happened before where you make this many changes and it's this good, this fast, but we don't think it's an aberration or a fluke or anything. We actually think we can win. And if that's the case, then I could see them doing something out of character, this would be trading an asset and paying the money, which they haven't done yet for anybody. I don't think they're going to do it in this case, but it will come down to, do they actually think that this is something that is going to last throughout the season to the point that it makes them competitive to seriously compete for something deep into January? And that's something that I have a hard time even buying that they would believe at this point. You know, because we're all on this joyride with this, and it's been amazing, and I love it. I'm happy to be part of it, and I do think they're clearly, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, clearly way ahead of schedule, like, and not close ahead of schedule, but this is the move that the Niners on the cusp of a Super Bowl do. This is the move that a desperate team like Dallas does because they're scared. You know, they think they have a window, and they're scared, so they go do something like this. This is the move that maybe Buffalo does because they go, or Kansas City. Well, I don't think the Raiders would trade with them, but like Buffalo tries to do it because they're like, let's go over the top, and they're right kind of there. It would take a real leap in I think, logic to go, this first month is indicative of how good we're going to be the whole year, and therefore, why wouldn't we? Because if we could get them to take a, I don't know, 3rd round pick that we just got for Jahan Dotson, why wouldn't we do something like that?
So I think the other part here, though, is maybe it's not Adams because of the age and who he is, but like, now that the market was established that they want a 2nd round pick and, you know, whatever else is going to help get that done, it's probably going to be like a 2nd and another mid-round pick or something like that, or a swap. Mm-hmm. I'm now looking at, cool, that's the number 1 wide receiver on the market. That's what you're saying. All right, let's see where the Browns are in 4 weeks. You want to call them about Amari Cooper? Like, it doesn't have to be Adams. It could be another weapon here. And like, that's a name that I think would be a great compliment to Terry without having to break the bank, or if you hold on to him for an extra year or so or something like that. Like, this is where I land. They don't need the number one guy in Adams, I guess is what I'm getting at here. I think you can start making calls about some of those second tier guys, and they're actually going to thrive a little bit more than we thought in this offense. The other one too is, like, I keep saying this, start calling teams that are going to be out of it about other assets as well that you're not even thinking of. Like, you want to call the Jets about Hassan Reddick because there's nothing happening there and they need an edge rusher. Like, they should start calling about some other positions too, I think.
On Reddick, it's interesting you bring his name up because I saw some clip from Bill Belichick, because he's like king of all media now.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be good at it, but I didn't think he'd be this good at it. Anyway, because his personality's totally come out in all of this. And he actually said something kind of offhanded about Hassan Reddick. And he said something like, well, the Jets took on that problem, as if it's like kind of widely known.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, we got good things going on here right now. So if that's what the word on the street is that he's kind of a pain in the what, I'm out.
But I'm saying, but basically what I'm getting at is you start kicking around some of those other names, I think. Like, it doesn't have to be Adams to trade a second round pick for that guy. Can they trade a fourth or a fifth for somebody that's going to still be an upgrade here? Like, I think that's what we need to start evaluating here.
They're playing Cleveland this weekend. Cleveland has two really good corners. One of them gets paid big time. Denzel Ward. Greg Newsom's a very good corner. They're 1-3.
Right.
Like, that's the position I would look at. If you really want to do something because someone's selling off an asset that you might have to pay a significant amount of money to, I would argue that even through all of this first month, that they are still missing a good, like a top corner.
Yeah.
And so if there is someone that's available there, I would listen closely to something like that, especially if the price isn't a first round pick or anything like that. And if that's what Davante Adams is getting, then what is a corner that you don't feel like you can either afford or want to pay? What's that going to be? So that's the spot that I would look at. I agree. I don't think they need another receiver. If this is next year and we're doing the same thing and we start to feel like this is the new normal, like, because I'm not sure we're in a new normal yet. I'd like to think we are, but it's not a new normal until it's normal. Like, this is just an incredible month. If we're doing this, if we're 3-1 next year off of, let's just call this 10-7 this year, and they got into the playoffs because of the way they're going, well, then I think I would sit here and go, all right, load up. Let's go. Davante Adams is available. Load up. But now feels just a bit too soon to go after the let's go over the top guy. But this will go back to, do Peters, Quinn, Newmark, the ownership, do they feel like that they are so ahead of schedule that they're going to reset their expectations? And that's for them to decide. I feel like it's unlikely this is what they're going to do. But I do, like, are they going to get as caught up in it as we are, or what they're watching? Are they going? Because this goes back to, they've been right about a lot of these things. They're telling us these people are better than you're saying that they are. And so far, at least offensively, they're right. Like, they went on and on about our tight end room is way better than you think it is. It is. They're like, we think Brandon Coleman's really good. Look at how he's trending off of a summer where he was injured. He looks like an animal out there. They're saying the receiving group is good enough. I would still argue they're missing a top tier, you can't cover them type playmaker from making this offense go to another level. But I don't know that they need to do that right now. If I were to point out a need, it's corner. So if we're going to have this conversation about the Jalen Ramseys of the world or the Sauce Gardners of the world, like, why, I don't know why either one of them would be available, but let's just say they are. Well, now I think we're having a different conversation, because that to me is a long-term need, in my opinion.
No, and that's what I'm getting at here too. I don't think they're interested in doing a rental. Like, you also, I think it's worth reminding fans here as well, look at how good this draft class is. Like, every broadcast that I've watched, every single team says, oh, look at this top to bottom draft class, including, not including Jaden even. Look at how many contributors they have already. I would just remind people, they can't get that draft class again if they trade those picks away too. So, like, there's a timing issue here as well, that if you keep that draft pick, Adam Peters is most likely going to nail it as well. So that's the other thing. Like, you want to burn it on 1 year, fine, but this is also just year one. Like, I would rather, like you said, and like I said before, I'd rather go on something defense that you can actually hand a contract out to and say, look, we've got that position locked in now. We don't have to worry about that heading into the offseason.
Yeah, this whole it's so reassuring. Like, the front office and the coaches, when they message these things, every group does this. Of course, they're going to express confidence in their players. Of course they are. But oftentimes they're not right in that confidence, or it's overblown, and we can see right through it. Well, these guys have been right about a lot of these things. When was the last time we had that here? Probably Mike Shanahan.
Right.
Mike Shanahan was right about a lot of things. There were forces getting in his way, right?
Yeah.
Like, he drafted Kirk Cousins because he knew. Because he knew. He also, like as time goes by with the coaching tree that he has, I think the level of respect for his knowledge of personnel, coaching scheme, I actually kind of, off of that, don't know how he's not in the Hall of Fame, frankly. How many people have come off of his coaching tree and have had a massive amount of success, and he's a winner. So, like, I don't understand, but like, that's the last time that I felt like we had a coach in here that was, when he was expressing confidence in something, he was actually right about it. Infrastructurally, though, the organization wasn't prepared to deal with him being right, and they got in his way. I think that's what was so frustrating for him about the whole thing. This is the first time since that I think we've had a staff in here, when they say something, you treat it with skepticism. And so far, and again, it's only a month, they've been right about some key prominent things that we had serious questions about. Is your receiving core good enough? We don't think so. They did. They're right. So far, do they need another over-the-top, push them over the top type talent? I think so. But they're right about the group. Are they right about their tight ends? No doubt about it. Are they right about their offensive line? That is amazingly better than I thought it would be. Amazingly better. And I'll get into that next. Bray West Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I want to pick up on that last thought, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time about it, talking about it, because I'm out of time and I need to move on to Cleveland. But I did, review the Commanders-Cardinals game. And I want to start by saying, I think Jaden's been amazing. And I don't want to underplay his role in all of it, because he's changing everything for them. And I don't think you can undersell that. But top to bottom, this was one of the best games from all three phases that I've seen in a really long time. Like, there was one bad play on special teams. There were a select few on defense, a select few, a couple bad run fits, a bad coverage like here or there. But like, the touchdown that was scored early, that was a great throw. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. The 4th and 12 that they got, like, it was a really great throw, great route. Like, the pass to Wilson that he made, it was like, teams make good plays on you. There were only a few that I looked back and I went, they could have done this better. But across the board, this was like shocking how efficient and strong that they were. Because I think this is another part of part of this is this real sentiment that I've had, and I think a lot of people have had, that how could it, game 4 with all of these different people and all these different parts, how could it be this efficient and this effective this quickly? And they are really defying logic. But if you go watch this, you haven't seen this team play like this in a long time. And I mean, across, not just the quarterback, across the board play like this.
I think this is pretty much what I was alluding to after the game on Monday, was there's a buy-in here. I think you're seeing it all the way across the board, and it's affecting the actual play here. Like, I think that little bit of extra effort, everyone's chipping in now because they see they have a legit quarterback that gives them a chance to win. You're seeing it. Like, this is the team chemistry coming into play here. I think the play that epitomizes all of this was Sinnott making that block that popped McNichols for the touchdown. Like, yes.
It's 2 weeks in a row he's done this. 2 weeks in a row. He's been the one who pops out the 20-something yard touchdown run.
And he was supposed to be the Chris Cooley guy. Not that Chris couldn't block, but he was just supposed to be like the receiver.
They said he was use check, and they're turning out to be right about that.
All right. Well, but what
it's turning out that that's what he is. They haven't even tested him down the field yet. He's really been kind of a movable fullback for them.
Right. And so, like, I'm starting to like go back to and like look at things more retrospectively of the moves they've made. Like, I think we need to go back to them trading Dotson to set the tone of this team of like, hey, you got to buy in. If you're not getting the ball, like you got to buy into block downfield, right?
That's
like,
right.
I feel like that was the biggest reason Dotson was traded, not because 100%. Of his receiving. It was because he wasn't buying into the other stuff.
I think he'd lost some confidence. It was clear. And then I didn't love his body language and attitude just in general. And then he's not a big guy. So the physical part of it was going to be tough. And I've been talking about this since the middle of camp. I'm like, look at the profile of this team and the players that they like. They want big physical players. Zacchaeus might be small, but he's a very physical player. Go watch McLaurin this last week, not just with the catches, the blocks down the field. He's blocking for people. You want to see something amazing too. Go watch Jaden's touchdown run on this one, where it's the right time, the right call. He gets 2 perfect blocks and then rides Biotish as if he's like riding the Kentucky Derby winner and pushes him exactly where he wants him to go. You're just seeing this, the execution level, the buy-in, the physicality. It's there, and it's finally turning for the defense. And I would argue that was probably the weakest offense they have faced, and maybe they'd be offended by that because we played the Giants. But I think the Giants offense actually is functioning better than Arizona's is right now. And Murray makes as many mistakes as Daniel Jones does. So don't even at me with that because he does if you're really watching it. And this was by far their best performance again, against a weaker opponent, but it was coming around. Chin is starting to feel himself now. Like he's getting comfortable in this. The physicality from him is showing up. Bobby Wagner made 2, and I mean unbelievable plays in this defense. One where he saw a underneath crossing route from a receiver and got in the way of it and made Kyler change his mind and throw an errant pass. It's the one that Igbenogany knocked down. It was Wagner that wasn't where the ball was supposed to go. Wagner, not covering a slot receiver, saw the play, got in the way of it, forced him to make this change. Later in the game, he was supposed to cover a running back. The running back, I don't know where he went, just opened up a hole. So Wagner just looked up and went, I'm going to go sack the quarterback, and did. He wasn't supposed to rush on that play. He just did. This stuff's coming around. Defensive line played its best game, albeit, beat up offensive line, but you're supposed to take advantage of things like that. Yes. Armstrong was outstanding. Allen showed up, I thought, for the first time, really. I think the buy-in from him and Payne, you could see it on their face and their voices. They're like us. They needed to believe, see it to believe it too. The buy-in across the board, they had one bad return, the opening return. The coverage units, it's a different person on every play, making a wild hit down the field. The buy-in here is, for a month, remarkable. And across the board, this was one of the best games I've seen this team play collectively in a very, very long time.
No, and as I said, I think it's a part of that setting the tone of saying, hey, you're, to steal Mike Rizzo's quote, you're either with us or you're in the way. That's how it felt with the trade of Dotson. And that's why I'm saying the tone was set early on of, if you're not getting the ball, don't worry, but we still need you to act, physical and block down the field and be a good teammate, essentially. And I feel like that's been the most important part through these first 4 weeks outside of Jaden Daniels. It's that everyone around him has the belief that they're all pulling on the same rope. This early, this fast is super impressive.
All right. Me, you, and the Archman go to see the O's and the Royals today, hon. What's coverage 4:00?
So let me just break down for you. Tony starts at 2:00 today. 3:00 will be Commanders Daily with you. Then 3:30 will be Orioles preview with Andy. Then 4:00 will be Orioles pregame. 4:30 first pitch. We got you covered all day.
We'll be down there, so we'll see you. So hopefully we'll see some of y'alls at Old Camden Yards today. Go get a celebratory drink at Pickles afterwards there, hon, when the O's tied this series at 1-1 there, hon. All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram wants to show you 6:30 Sports Capital.